What is going on, everybody? I hope everybody's having a great day, a great afternoon. We're going a little bit later than usual. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, emphasis on the AFL, Eric Crocker. And we're talking about some things pertaining to the 49ers. Got Adam Schefter talking about, man, there's no value for Trey Lance. Nobody asked about him. They weren't willing to trade him. We're going to discuss that, why his value might be down. 49ers, do they have the most toxic fan base? My guy, Lawrence Jackson from NBC Sports, he thinks so. Got the 49ers ranked number one. And just the state of the 49ers, are they primed for a deep playoff run? Again, we're going to get into all of that, but not by myself. All right. And usually I come on here, and I'm by myself and I interact with y'all. I see the flames coming in here. Today we got a very special guest, and he does a lot of very special things. All right. So real quick, definitely want to check on everybody. Make sure y'all are really good. All right. We see Mr. Khalil Young. He said, whoa, Crock hitting us with some afternoon ish. Let's go. Yeah. All right. We got the flames coming in. You already know the deal, man. 5 flames. If you're feeling good, anything less than that, if you need anybody to talk to, you're going through anything, you got baby mama drama, whatever it is, baby daddy drama. Hey, man, I'm here for you. All right. So just shoot me a DM. Tell me what the issue is. I'll shoot you my number and we could talk about it. I know some people just need someone to talk to. But speaking of someone to talk to, we got somebody to talk to on this live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. And that is none other than my guy, Sosa Picks. Sosa, man, how you doing, bro?
Man, I'm doing great. Nice little Thursday. Good to get away from the NBA. Everybody talking about the draft. We talk about football. You already know, man. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, as always.
So you are a big 49er fan. And as you know, most of the 49er fans, and I'm not sure, where do you live at?
I live in Philly. I'm on.
Okay, so you're on the East Coast, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're on the East Coast. And you probably still feel this because, you are a 49er fan. You cover the 49ers very closely. But a lot of the fan base is Warrior fans out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't even know Warrior fans really existed like that, but they're here. They're here.
Absolutely.
All right. So I see, probably about 30 minutes before you and I came on here that Jordan Poole was traded for CP3. So you do a lot of stuff with the picks, and we're going to definitely tell everybody all the things you're doing. But before we even get into that, man, just your overall thoughts when you see that go down, because I have my thoughts.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you like this, man. Washington is stuck in a situation where they have to get to the lowest number on the books while still trying to provide a product for their fans. Like the problem with Bradley Beal being on the books is simply you don't give someone a supermax contract unless you believe that you can build a winner around them with them being the centralized piece. If that's not the case, you have to get the money off the books. So you get CP3. CP3's at 30 plus M's, right? He's 37 years old. No team wants that on the books going forward. Now, by making this trade for Jordan Poole, you get his contract off the books, and you get a player that's under the age of 25 that still has a high ceiling, right? Obviously, we saw some of his deficiencies as far as playing defense, and maybe he just doesn't fit what the Warriors want right now, right? Because obviously you paid him based on the fact that he was durable. He played 2 straight seasons. He played every single game for the Warriors. He was lights out for him. He got paid, and then you basically saw the glaring deficiencies that he can't do immediately. So if you want to compete right now, you can play with CP3 and have Steph off ball with Clay. So it's 2 great shooters with a pass first point guard. Who doesn't like that, right?
Right.
It sounds good, but then again, defensively, you're going to have to figure out how that works defensively. And obviously, Draymond just opting out. Does this mean that the Warriors look to give him an extension, or they look to move on from him? So it's a lot of moving pieces, but I like it for both organizations. I think that Jordan Poole can go be the alpha somewhere else and score a bunch of points. And I don't think Washington's main goal right now is going to be to win ball games. It's going to be to try and give their fans something exciting with the notion and understanding that they're not built to win right now in any capacity. I will also say this, my final thought on it. The Warriors did a hell of a job of scamming their way out of Jordan Poole's contract, because after we saw him in the playoffs and just this run, we realized that they might have made a grave mistake with the organization, and to get that off the books so quickly was a masterful job by new management. So that's where I stand on it.
All right. Sounds like if you're a Warrior fan, you should be kind of excited for the flexibility that the Warriors will have moving forward. All right. And moving forward, we're going to get into a lot of 49er talk here. But first, for the people that are tuning in right now, whether you're listening to it on the audio version or on YouTube, who is Sosa Picks and what the hell does Sosa Picks do? Why is Sosa Picks on this show?
Because first off, I try to give an unbiased view of just from a fan standpoint or a thought process, because I'm a sports handicapper. Obviously, people pay me to help them, get an advantage on the books. I can't say for financial advice because that's not why they pay me. They simply pay me like Evel Knievel. I do get paid for the attempt. Don't get it wrong. So I lose too. No sports handicapper is 100%. But my goal is to try and use the best information to get people the greatest edge they can on the sports books. And I try to approach a lot of the conversation impartially, because even though I am a 49ers fan, I'm fully cognizant that there are some super fans and people who are just irrational when it comes to any team that they might support, not just the 49ers. If you're a 49er fan, I don't want you to take that personal, because I think some of y'all are geniuses and I think some of y'all are idiots, just like some people think I'm an idiot. So, you know what I mean? It's a 50-50. So for me, again, I'm always on the timeline, whether it's sports picks, whether it's sports conversation, whether it's debate, whether it's, sometimes, you get bored on a Thursday and you want to troll. You might see Trey Lance throw a pass from the 1 yard line and it might cause a conversation about absolutely nothing. So, that's where I'm at with it. Trying to get people some level of entertainment while also trying to educate them as far as like the pitfalls that come with FOMO and the inability to gamble with your heart. A lot of people want to gamble with their heart instead of their heads, which is a huge mistake you make. Fan-based betting, I do not encourage that in any capacity.
And I kind of did that last night. It worked last night, but typically I try to stay away from the San Francisco Giants right now. They're on a hot streak, man. They're on a heater. And every game, the Giants are the underdogs. I'm able to get them at plus 100 like every game. I'm like, okay, I'll put 100 on that. Okay, I'll put 100 on that. Okay. And then last night I parlayed it with the Dodgers and put $50 down and ended up coming up like 275. But I don't advise betting on your team and that wasn't even really an informed decision to bet. It was just, okay, I think the Dodgers will win, but I need to go get some Sosa picks. So if somebody is interested in some of the things that you're doing, where can they find you?
At Twitter, at Sosa Picks. Just click the link in my bio. You can get links to the free picks and info, any paid services that I offer. I do something called the Win the Day TV, which is my YouTube channel. And then off of that, we have Win the Day VIP, which is subscriber based. Just click the link in the bio and it'll take it everywhere. So Sosa Picks on Twitter, and in the Twitter bio, the link takes you to every single form of media you can catch me on.
All right, awesome. I'll make sure I click on that stuff so I can support as well and get in on some of those bets, because I think betting makes everything a lot more fun. We are going to get into this first. You talked about Trey Lance. We'll get to Trey Lance, but my guy Jedi says, I want to know, how are we, the 49ers, number one toxic fan base? Kind of funny. And this was a video from my guy Lawrence Jackson. He does stuff for NBC Sports. He's a fantasy guy, but he's got his ear to the ground. He's definitely in tune with everything going on just in the NFL fan bases. And he starts to run through his top 5 most toxic fan bases. Now, clearly, this is an off-season conversation. This is a dead period. So those are the kind of rankings and lists that you're going to start to get. But the fact that I feel that the 49ers will be number one before even getting to the number one and seeing the 49ers there, I think that says a lot about maybe there's a little bit more truth to it. And I get to feel it because, I talk to the fans every day. I see my timeline. I get tagged and stuff. I see how 49er fans interact. So to me, I definitely see a certain level of toxicity, but I'm like, well, maybe I'm just really close to it, right? Or maybe I'm just so close to the 49er fan base, so I felt like that. But then I see him have Niners number one. And then now I want to get your perspective on this because, again, with everything that you do, and, I was in a space the other day that you're hosting, y'all talking about the NFC North and the AFC North and the different things that are going on with that, not talking about 49ers. So you get to hear other fan bases as well. So how much do you put into this 49ers being the number one toxic fan base in the NFL?
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I think that there's a level of truth to it as a 49er fan. And I think and the thing is, the recent events get us classified that way, like the recent things that have taken place with the team. For example, we all know the elephant in the room, Brock Purdy being the quarterback, right? It's right now. There's a huge faction of the fan base that is like, he's not the guy, or we want it to be Trey, right? So it's people saying, oh, well, you're ready to give up on a top 3 pick, but it's like, no, like we just saw a guy win all of his starts that he finished. So you know what I mean? It causes arguments and conversation. I think that's part of it. It is part of like one also like when you win, you don't want to start losing. Right. So like once we started winning with Brock, there should be a huge group of people that say, if it's not broke, why are we trying to fix or change things? Right. I think that's really what it is. I think that also, I think our passion for the game also changes. Listen, we have some fans that have been invested in this for 20 plus years. And those are people with huge followings on the internet, and they're the older crowd. So you know, it's a give and take, because it seems like the younger fans have a way of looking at things, and then the older fans who were alive for seeing everything take place with the team have a way of looking at it as well. So would I say we're the number one most toxic? No, the most toxic fan base on Twitter is the Bengals fan base easily. by a country mile. And I have like some good friends who are like part of it, but like they're the most, it's not even close. They are so, well, first of all, they never won shit. So that's the biggest thing. So once they start winning, fans just pop out of anywhere. Just like, they're like the Avengers. They just show up like, oh, where'd you guys come from? Right. Like you weren't a fan 2 years ago, but you're a fan now. But their fan base, them getting to a Super Bowl has completely changed the way they walk, talk, act, everything. That's what it is. They've changed everything about the way they act, because they now have a real winning. They actually have a chance at winning every year, right? And they broke that huge streak of not making it to the playoffs. But their fan base is easily the most toxic, in my opinion. As far as like whoever they are looking for every reason to be offended. They're looking for every reason to be the underdog. They're dying for it. And if you don't talk about Joe Burrow when you talk about all the best quarterbacks, you're slighting them. That's a fan base that I feel is the most toxic. And I'll probably get some kickback from it, but I really don't care. Based on my interaction on the internet, I've probably been blocked by more Bengals fans than any group. And and this is from a guy that hates the Browns and hates the Steelers and hates all the teams in that division. Right. But the Bengals fans, they are.
You're very close to it. Where you live, you're in kind of that AFC North area.
Yes, and they're looking at they looking for every. You're a former. They're looking for every inch and piece of locker room conversation or something to get every little bit of motivation. They get it out of anything. You said Skyline Chili sucks. Oh man, it could be anything. It could be anything. They're looking for a reason to be offended. Our fan base, we're passionate because we won, we lost, and we don't want to go back to losing. I really believe that's the biggest thing with our fan base. We went through those years where we weren't getting close and we weren't good, to where we are now. And it's like, if Brock's the guy, Brock's the guy. If he's not, I'm totally cool with Trey being the guy because of what we gave up for him. If you're really a Niner fan, you want Trey Lance to be your quarterback. Why? We gave up a lot to get him. That's the number one thing for me. I don't want it to be a dead investment. I'm about making the correct moves. And if it doesn't pan out with him being the guy, we will look back at, even if we win a title, we will simply say we gave up so much for this guy. Even if we were to win a title with Brock Purdy as our quarterback, we'd be happy, but we will have given up a lot for somebody who wasn't the face of the franchise when that was the plan. I pray to God that Trey's healthy though, man. Oh my God. I'm like, please.
Well, he is healthy. So, okay, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a trade value and everything like that. But I guess we should kind of touch on this quarterback situation, because I haven't heard a whole lot of your thoughts on it. But where are you with, and I'm probably going to get backlash on this in my comments, but because people, oh, you guys treat him like he's this little kid, like he's this little baby, right? But I feel like there's a certain level of development that need to be had and gone about a certain way that didn't necessarily or doesn't really fit with the timeline of the 49ers. And that's kind of the best way to kind of sum it up right now. I was just on Locked On 49ers, myself, Brian Peacock, come at you 5 days a week on any streaming platform and YouTube as well. But I asked him the question, if Josh Allen during his rookie year got hurt midway through, And all you had was his first half of games. And Brock Purdy, the same Brock Purdy that we just saw, came in and played just like he just did for the Niners, right? Played extremely well. Do you ever get to figure out that does Josh Allen ever turn into what we know Josh Allen to be now? And so I'm gonna ask you that question. Like if Josh Allen, based on his rookie year, got hurt midway through it, started 7 games, 8 games, boom, he's hurt, right? He goes down with an injury. Brock Purdy comes in, does the same thing. Do we ever find out that Josh Allen is as good as he is?
Absolutely not. We don't. Or again, it depends on the stance and how the organization approaches it, right? The thing is that Trey Lance's inability had no direct impact on the team whatsoever, which in most cases would make him dispensable. Like him being hurt or him being unavailable did not affect the team in any way, shape, or form. The team performed at an extremely high level without him. Right. So that's the thing. It's like if that happens with Josh Allen, your expectations change, right? Like, and when you're a rookie, there are no expectations. So who's to say if that was to happen hypothetically? Let's say he was to get hurt, Josh Allen was to get hurt. The organization probably wouldn't have a hard time moving on because he didn't give them a sample of data that would say, hey, listen, this is definitely the guy. Because that's what we're looking at now with Trey. And also you'd have to factor in like, Josh Allen getting hurt and then his backup showing up and doing a serviceable job to the point where the team was successful. Right. So I think that's the biggest part. It's that like Trey Lance was hurt and we didn't see him look great or he didn't light the world on fire when he was available. And then him getting hurt. Then the guy who replaced him was obviously Jimmy. And then Brock was so efficient in the offense and obviously the number one thing Brock did was he didn't give the ball to the other team. I mean, I've been overly critical of Brock Purdy. I had to delete about 150 tweets when he became our quarterback because I said so many.
You were critical of him prior to being
so many messed up things about him at Iowa State because he was garbage there. I mean, there's a reason why he was drafted last. And listen, I obviously have forgiven him. He's in my good graces now because he won some games for my favorite team. But at the end of the day, I want Trey to be my quarterback. Yeah, I'm just be totally honest with you. I want Trey to be my quarterback. One, the only time I've ever seen an explosive athlete or a guy who had the ability to actually run the ball with Kyle Shanahan was RG3. And I mean, it didn't work out well, but it looked really good for a little bit. Didn't it? It looked fantastic. I'm not saying he's RG3, but I want that. I want to see the video game offense. I don't want to have to enter every week and know that if my quarterback doesn't play perfect, and doesn't, because that's what it is for me. I want Trey to be the guy. One, we gave up a lot to get him. Obviously, like someone mentioned in the chat, like we've already gotten past the picks, but I want that guy to be my quarterback.
So you used a couple words in describing Brock Purdy, and we can go on and on about Trey Lance again. And I'll kind of my thoughts in general. I would just like to know what the fuck he is or what he isn't, right? And I feel like all 4 games. You just don't know. The team doesn't know, and that's why they're like, well, at least we know more of what we got from Brock Purdy. But you use some interesting words there with Brock Purdy. And you use the word serviceable. And you use the word, well, he was efficient. So, listening to the words that you used, you sound like you're not as sold on the legend of Brock Purdy as maybe others. So what are you seeing within the context of how the games maybe worked out, or for you to just not be like all in like we see some others?
I'm all in on whoever Kyle decides is the guy. I'll go as far as to say that. Because the performance that Brock Purdy put out, we're going to give him credit, but we're going to also give the pieces around him a high level of credit. The running back, the offensive line, the weapons, and then the deployment of those weapons. That's huge. That's very huge, okay? When I use the words like efficient, listen, the number one thing that Brock Purdy did last year was he didn't give the ball to the other team. Number one. And that's the ball security is the most important thing. Don't give it to the other team. You have an elite defense on the other side, you're going to have a chance to win every single week. That's the reality of it. You can have a chance. He didn't turn the ball over. And again, am I sold on him being the starter? Yes. Am I sold on him being the franchise quarterback? Absolutely not. No, because I don't think he's this super dynamic player that can make the 2-3 big plays. He can make the 2-3 plays in the confines of the offense as far as distributing the ball. But again, it comes down to Kyle being a great game planner and there being a ton of help around him. I mean, that's what it is. We traded for McCaffrey, like just across the board, offensive line, receiving group, tight end groups, and then system. I mean, what young quarterback wouldn't want to be where, what Brock Purdy got or inherited? Like I said, the number one thing is I can't take away from the processing. I can't take away from the not turning the ball over, right? And I can't take away from winning the games that you start. But I can say, do I think I can ask Brock Purdy to go win me the game? No. I can ask him to not lose it. He showed me he did a really good job of that last year. But do I think that with more tape on him and defenses being able to game plan for him week to week, do I trust him? I don't.
Can you expound on that? Because I think a lot of times when people hear, oh, tape on him, right? And it's like, oh, they had tape on him, whatever. My thoughts on like having tape on somebody is starting to learn just the more information and data you're able to gather on a player, you start to learn what they do well, maybe things they don't do well, the way that they see the field. And then once the defenses, the coordinators, they start to adjust to, hey, well, Brock Purdy likes to do X, Y, Z. Then it's on Kyle and Brock to kind of throw another counter out there. But when you say like, man, the film, the tape out on him, what can you like expound on that a little bit more?
We can use an example in the history of our franchise. And this might touch a few people the wrong way. Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Once the league saw the things that he wasn't good at, defenses can game plan to force you into doing the things you're not great at. The thing is that I look at the tape on Brock Purdy, and it's not that it's bad or anything of the sort. And that's not what I want to say. What I want to do. I just think that there are some limitations to his game. I don't think that like I said, he's not like he's not a super athlete. And again, he has the perfect storm around him. You know what I mean? And I think that's what it is. It's like once the league gets, sees what you do, right? They now are going to game plan to do things to force you to do things differently. Now, we could honestly believe that Kyle can just adapt to it and call a game where he never puts his quarterback in that situation. But at some point, the quarterback's going to be asked to make 2 or 3 big plays. And I don't believe he's the guy. I don't believe he has that X factor that you see from the best quarterbacks. I think he's a good game manager who did a great job of distributing the ball last year. And if Trey Lance does that with the added ability to be a dynamic athlete, he's a better quarterback.
I think the issue is that we don't know if Trey, because we haven't gotten enough in the areas that Trey needed to develop. We haven't seen him play enough to develop in those areas. And I think right now, that's why. And I don't think, like, let's say week 1, you got to go out there, you got to win a game. Who are you starting, Trey Lance or Brock Purdy? Hey, everybody's healthy. Everybody, or I don't even say week 1. We'll say we're going to fast forward. We don't know what happened in weeks 1 through 16 or 17, but we know week 18, playoffs on the line. We don't know anything else that happened, but you have to choose right now between Brock Purdy, who's 100% healthy, and Trey Lance, who's 100% healthy, to go in and start the game. Who are you going?
I'm choosing today.
You're choosing that today.
Choosing today. It would have to be Purdy.
Right. So there's going to be a lot of people that take what you're saying as like that you don't think this guy can play, but clearly like that's not what I don't think that's what anybody's saying.
Right. Listen, a guy goes undefeated in the games he started and goes from last pick in the draft to potential rookie of the year. How can you even fathom arguing with him being the starter? You'd have to be a complete jackass to think, well, this guy didn't lose any games. I think we should just bench him. How stupid does that even sound?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. Trey Lance has to perform at an extremely high level in the preseason in order to take the job from Brock Purdy. I'm aware of that. I think Brock Purdy's aware of that. I think Trey Lance is aware of that. I think you know that too. Brock Purdy performed too well over the stretch of time that he played last year to not earn the right to be the starter. And if anybody's arguing that at this point, they're idiots. They're an absolute idiot. That's why you keep hearing me say stuff like, I want Trey to be the starter. Not that he is going to be the starter. I want him to be because I'm selfish and I want an athletic 6'5" quarterback who kind of resembles Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he should probably shave his head, but I would rather that guy. I'm just being honest. This is me. And also,
why though, Sosa?
For sure.
You and I, before we got on here, you mentioned something about building your own platform and what goes into that, right? You're like, man, I can probably join a network and something that people have built already, but man, I like building my own and the process of that. So when you see Trey Lance, you see the potential in that business investment. You see that, hey, this might not be an overnight thing, but if I stay patient and I work through it and I grind, like what it potentially can be. So that's what you're talking about when you mentioned Trey Lance, as opposed to what Brock Purdy is, which I think both of us feel more comfortable with. Right now, I got to have one guy start to win the game. I'm going to lean with him over Trey. And I see somebody in the chat, they're like, well, Trey, he won the must-win game against Houston, right? And it's like, yes, he did. We kind of had no choice, right? Because if you had a choice, you probably would say, well, I would probably rather have Jimmy Garoppolo start that game. And Trey went in there. He did great, and that was awesome. But that wasn't by anyone's choice. So that's why it's like, if you have a choice right now, it's like, yeah, of course, I would lean with Purdy. But if I'm somebody like me, who I am a big, strong believer in player development, I just know that everybody's development paths is different. That's where I lean Trey Lance. But unfortunately, because of the situation and the timetable of the 49ers and the window that they're currently in, it would be extremely difficult and I think irrational. And I think everybody would say that would be stupid to start Trey Lance week 1 if Brock Purdy is 100% healthy. Now, if he's not, and let's talk about Adam Schefter and some of his comments that he made. All right, so he mentioned that, man, there wasn't really a trade value for Trey Lance, and they weren't looking to trade him. And he also goes on to say, well, I think that, Sam Darnold, he's going to have the edge for QB2, which is wild because, and I don't want to speak for you, but all the beat writers and everybody that's at OTAs, I haven't heard anyone say that. I've heard my guy, Guy Haberman say, well, he didn't see that Trey Lance had like this, massive, like this gap or anything like that. And he was saying, well, and if there isn't a gap between the two, then maybe you're more encouraged moving forward with Sam Darnold because he just showed up, as opposed to Trey Lance, who has been a 49er. And I would say that that's pretty logical. But the way that Schefter is saying it is almost like the 49ers are washing their hands with Lance. And now here's my issue with that. Again, I went back and I used Josh Allen as an example, not in the sense of what Trey would be, but potentially what's out there. If Josh got hurt in the middle of his rookie year or even in the middle of his second year and then Brock Purdy came in, he likely would have started the rest of the way.
Right.
If Josh, how he was playing as a rookie, had Jimmy Garoppolo on the team and how erratic Josh Allen was, he would not have played. And I don't know what the hell Trey Lance is going to be, but you have to go through some of this to find that kind of greatness. You're in Philly. You're on the East Coast. You saw Jalen Hurts his rookie year, and there were some cool moments. He ultimately got benched for Nate Sudfeld.
Here's the greatness, and this is another thing. I'm glad you brought up Jalen Hurts. Did you know that Jalen Hurts year 1 to 2 as a starter in the NFL is the greatest year-to-year ascension in the history of football? No, I'm serious. Like, and there's crazy data to back it up. Think about this. He was 30th in football throwing the deep ball his first year as a starter. Last year he was 3rd. He went from almost dead fucking last to 3rd in the league. That was, and you know the game. For someone to do that first of all, it's damn near impossible. It's the greatest ascension year to year at the position that we've ever seen. Ever. And the thing is, too, is that you saw them contour an offense that fit him. It was obviously there's a level of power run game that goes with him playing, but again, it's things that you can add to the offense that makes him effective that I think that you can't do with a guy like that you could do with a guy like Trey Lance and that you could never do with a guy like Purdy. You know what I mean? I think that's the appeal of a Trey Lance. He's an athlete. And there's something about the guy that looks the part. Like if you put them next to each other, it's kind of like, remember when Philly drafted Carson Wentz and it was him or Jared Goff, and they stood next to each other, and you're just like, bro, I would pick Wentz every time because he just looks the part, right?
But for a while, you were right when he was, playing very well. Had a good rookie year. Second year is like, oh man, is he an MVP guy? And then they found out he's kind of this jackass or bad teammate, and then things start going down. But as far as the ability, they were kind of right.
See, I'm out here. I'm gonna tell you right now, the beef really started because he was doing too much in the locker room, trying to push his own personal beliefs on too many people in the locker room. We saw that happen to a little short guy in Seattle, but we're not going to talk about him because he's moved on to greener pastures in Denver. He went to live where the Broncos do to lose. So we're not gonna get into him. Right. But on the outside and on the TV, everyone's like, oh, he's a great guy. Seems like a great teammate. And then as soon as they kind of get out of the building, they're like, I don't know. Well, there's a reason. If you look at the same teammates that he had in Philly, they played 10 times harder for another quarterback. I don't think that's by mistake. They played 10 times harder for Jalen Hurts, bro. And it's a lot of guys that were doing the same. They got the same center, there's a bunch of guys in the offense, a bunch of guys, and they played 10 times harder for Jalen Hurts than they ever did for Carson Wentz. That's not by mistake. That ain't by mistake.
So we did get off track a little bit, but I wanted to get your thoughts on just Adam Schefter and just the reports that, no trade value.
Got time on his hands, man. Got time on his hands. And I really I would like to argue the fact that there is trade value for Trey Lance, but at this point, let's be honest. It's going to take a team that believes in him or has a vision for him that most teams aren't going to be able to see. Because you're only as good as your last game, and you're only as good as your availability. I can't argue with if Schefter comes on and says, hey, there's no market for him. It makes perfect sense to me. I'm trying to trade for if a team were trying to trade for Trey Lance, they would have to have a plan intact. Like, this is the guy that we see something in that we could build around. That team should be the 49ers, in my opinion. I don't think and for Schefter to say there's no trade value. You look around the league, man. Why would you trade for a Trey Lance if you're a struggling team, right? Knowing that you have two guys coming in next year that could be generational talents. It would make no sense. You'd never risk trading for a quarterback in his third year. Then next year he's going to have an option that you're going to have to pay. It just wouldn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense for a team to trade for a Trey Lance.
So I think there are a lot of people there's a lot of people that would say, well, he doesn't have. Oh, look, see, he just has no value. And I kind of look at it from the standpoint of you, like, look at the other factors into this, right? Yeah. One, even last year, let's say prior to the draft, who is going to trade for him with whatever situation they are? And that's difficult when a lot of teams that would maybe potentially trade for him have either higher draft picks or already have another quarterback in place. And I think why I wouldn't give up much for Trey Lance, because I would give up next to nothing. Well, just because you use 3 first-round picks on him doesn't mean that I have to give you anything close to that type of value. He's the highest-paid quarterback on your roster currently. You want to go all in with Brock Purdy, and kind of don't know what to do with Trey Lance. So I'm not going to give you the top value for a player that is so dispensable to you and your team. And he's only played 4 games and hasn't proven he can stay healthy. So because of those things, and that's not me saying I don't think he can be good, but if he is going to be good, I'm going to find out by giving you the bare minimum. So I think when it comes to, a trade value for him, I understand it. I don't think that there should be a trade value for him. And if I were a team, I wouldn't give up much to get him either. And I can believe that he's going to be great. I can believe he's going to be good, but that still doesn't mean that I overpay for the unknown just because you spent a lot on it. It's like somebody buys, like, I don't know, I watch a lot of HGTV, and they got these houses that, like,
my girl loves HGTV.
Yeah. And you can't go into the house. You got to see the house from the outside. But just because they paid $1 million for this house, hey, it's in foreclosure. Like I see all these issues or whatever, and it's like I'm not gonna pay what they paid for it. I'll give y'all 200,000 cash price right now, and you're gonna have to take it because you got any other options. So I think it's more.
You're getting 25 cents on the dollar for that one, buddy.
Right.
Listen, again, we can only hope and pray that because it's just like that girl that you think you can change, or that man that you think you can change. We want it to be that guy so bad. We want it to be, but sometimes it's just he might not be the one. Okay, and you might have to settle with the guy who has the steady job. I'm sorry to break the news to you, sweetheart. Sometimes that's the deal. That's how it's going to work out for you. All right. Now, listen, the serviceable guy with the regular job can probably get you to a Super Bowl and win it with Kyle Shanahan running the show. And I think that's the confidence that Brock Purdy gave us to believe that, hey, as long as Kyle's running the show and the guy has a pulse under center, we got a chance.
Just don't be CJ Beathard or Nick Mullins.
Can't be out there dying on us. That can't happen. Like, I would have given anything to have a quarterback that could walk, much less throw a pass in the last game we saw the 49ers play. So listen, I'm here. I'm cool with 5 quarterbacks on the roster, whatever it takes. I don't care. All right. Because at this point, like I said, Kyle's given us the confidence to believe that, listen, whoever I put back there is going to be good enough as long as they don't give the ball to the other team. And I think that's what we rest our hats on now, and believe in every time we talk about this team. We want it to be one guy, and if it's not, it is what it is. As long as Fred Warner's breathing and Bosa's cool, sign me up for whatever comes our way, man. I'm like Eric Spoelstra. We like some Navy SEALs out there. Drop us off, and we'll compete. I'll see you there. That's my mindset, just in general, with anything that has to do with the 49ers at this point. The only thing that bothers me or scares me is the potential for injuries, but that's part of the game.
Off topic, but is Eric Spoelstra the most underrated coach in the NBA?
No, the most underrated coach would be Mark Daigneault, the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he did do a great job with that.
Well, I mean, how could somebody who's got multiple rings be underrated, right? I think the word for
they say it's LeBron, and they like, I don't think they give him the credit. I think they give LeBron and those guys the credit.
Yeah, but then he's gotten 2 NBA finals since, and he hasn't won it. He lost in the bubble and he lost in this one, but he's still, it's still, and then he also did that twice with much less talent.
Right.
Much less talent. So I think he's the most forgotten about coach, but I think that, like, in the community of the NBA, he's extremely highly respected. But the most underrated coach is definitely my boy Daigneault from Oklahoma City. My goodness, he understands personnel. He understands the X's and O's. He understands all the sideline out of bounds plays. Most underrated. No one really knows too much about him because, Oklahoma City has been asked the last couple of years, but he's a guy, and very soon everyone's going to know about him. I can rest assured we'll be talking about him going forward. He's one of those guys.
All right. So now, and I'm going to touch on this last topic, and you kind of spoke about it a little bit when talking about, just needing a post-up quarterback and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, but the state of the San Francisco 49ers, and real quick for everybody asking, like, Crock, what the heck? You shaved your face? I did. I messed up on my mustache. I don't know if you've ever messed up lining your mustache up, but I messed it up real bad. So then I'm like, okay, I'll shave my mustache and just leave the rest of the facial hair, and that looked hella stupid.
And then he looked weird as hell. And you're like, I gotta go.
Yeah, that is like, so now it's like I'm just dang, I feel like I'm trying to get away with committing a crime by not leaving any hair follicles anywhere. I'm bald headed too, but I apologize for looking like a pedophile or something.
Going for a career in pro swimming,
right? Pro swimming, about to go be a firefighter. All those things where you got to shave your face. That's what I feel like. Yeah, I haven't been like this since maybe I was 18 years old. But I did want to ask you about the 49ers and how you feel. And again, like you said, as long as Warner, Bosa, those guys have a post, you got a post at quarterback, and you got Kyle Shanahan, you feel good about it. But realistically, with this team, I'll ask you a couple questions. Do you feel like they got better? And what are your expectations for this team in 2023?
Did we get better? We added Hargrave, who was probably the best interior lineman available in the entire NFL. So that alone is an improvement in personnel, right? For as far as the defensive line. Now, D'Amico Ryan's got a head coaching job, and we all are very familiar with how good he is. The thing that gives me solace is the fact that Steve Wilks is one hell of a defensive coordinator, and he was damn close to keeping the job as the head coach in Carolina. And that's from like people that I know in Carolina, like the homies were like, yo, like they really thought that he might have had like a legit chance at keeping that gig. I love the hire of Steve Wilks. Did we get better? Absolutely, we got better. The thing is that you can't make that dissemination of facts until they get out on the field and prove it. We lost some in the defensive backfield. I think our pass rush rotation will be right there. Obviously, losing Omenihu, who I think will have an amazing presence for the Chiefs. I loved his game. But listen, pass rush rotation, offensive line, offensive weapons. The only question mark is the defensive backfield. But with our front seven being as dominant as it has been the last couple of years, you don't need superstars in the back end. You need guys who aren't going to get scorched and dudes who can tackle. And I think that, through OTAs, through preseason, we'll have the right mix. And again, as long as Bosa's coming off the edge and as long as Fred Warner's there to clean stuff up and Dre Greenlaw's on the field, I believe we're at the base minimum, the floor, 11 wins. I do think in the division that Seattle's gotten better. I never seen a team recoup draft picks quite like them. They gave them all up for Adams, got them all back for Russell Wilson. Never seen anything like that in my life. The Rams, I mean,
I just need some of that magic, man.
Facts. Who's to know with the Rams? Obviously, you'd like to believe if Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald were both on the field, that they're gonna yield better results.
And Matthew Stafford, who was hurt.
Absolutely. So that's major. Even though we do own them in the regular season, they're going to continue to tell us that they beat us in the playoffs. I'm going to just pretend like that never happened, like Will Smith is next to me. So other than that, like I said, I think we're in a great place. The front seven defensively amazing. The only question mark is who's going to be the starting quarterback. Not if we're going to have a starting quarterback, it's who it's going to be. I think all three options are viable and just fine as long as they play within the confines of the offense that Kyle Shanahan puts out there. But as far as I'm concerned, 11 wins as the floor, given something catastrophic as far as the health of a major playmaker or like, you know what I mean? But it's just too much talent. And then Arizona being so unbelievably terrible, and there being a very low influx of talent throughout the conference. I mean, if we look at the NFC as a whole, it's San Francisco and Philly, and I'm not going to lie, like it's usually there's like, the drop off of talent isn't like vast in the NFL. It's usually like the talent gap is a lot closer. I think those two teams, as far as a talent gap across the board, they're visibly the two best teams. I think Dallas is a lot better than people think too. But as far as we go, again, outside of working out who's going to be in the defensive backfield outside of Trevarius Ward and Hufanga, I don't see too many glaring weaknesses with this roster. And I don't want to sound cocky or anything, but we're going to play a physical style of football. We're going to try to dominate the line of scrimmage, and we're going to go out and play 49er football. It hasn't been like smoke and mirrors the last couple of years. It's been pretty clear what our objective is, and as long as we execute it, it's been the same thing. It's a level of power run game, the zone game, and then we might go 13 plays from the same formation and all 13 plays be completely different. That's Kyle Shanahan.
That is right. And so I have a question for you. All right. And here's the question in the chat here, or a comment. He says, Gino coming back down to earth next year like a billionaire submarine. Now, listen, I'm not going to get to the submarine stuff.
Too soon.
I'm not going to get to the submarine stuff. But Gino coming back down to earth. And I hear that a lot. Like, oh, he's going to come back down. He's going to come back down. And he had amazing season, especially for him. 30 touchdowns, highest completion percentage in the NFL. Threw for like 4,300 yards. Like he balling out. And all they did was give him more weapons. They said, okay, go ahead, get Jackson Smith-Njigba. You got Zach Charbonnet. He runs like a monster, and he's going to be running with Kenneth Walker, right? So, now it's like, hey, in another year in that offense. So I want to ask you, because he says coming back down to earth. Who comes back down to earth first? Or if you had to put money on one of these guys who would come back down to earth, Geno Smith or Brock Purdy? And the Brock Purdy coming back down to earth, what I'm talking about is your version of what you saw at Iowa State as opposed to what you saw with him as a 49er.
See, the thing is that when I watch the tape on Purdy, it looks like he's fixed from Iowa State. And at Iowa State, his biggest issue was the turnovers. And they'd come in like the most inopportune moments. They'd be in the fourth quarter. They'd be in a close game. And then you look at the tape and like, bro, you could have just thrown that shit out of bounds. that was the problem. That was his problem at Iowa State. It was making the throw that you didn't have to. He has eliminated that.
Tony Romo like.
Yeah, he's just eliminated it completely from his game. If you watch the tape of him at Iowa State, I mean, bro, he would make the worst decisions late in games. The worst decisions you could possibly think of. The thing is with Brock, with Gino, is this: you named all those stats he put up, and we still beat him 3 times.
Right.
So again, I think that we have a direct blueprint on how to play him. Right? We know how to game plan for
or
him.
just how to beat that team, because if you actually look at his performance against the Niners, it's not
terrible, but
he doesn't, on paper it doesn't look bad.
The majority of his stats have come in garbage time because we'd be beating the shit out of them, and then they listen. The last 2, and this is for anybody betting, the last 3 times the 49ers have played the Seattle Seahawks, DK Metcalf has scored the last touchdown. Because they're still throwing the ball when they're down by 21 late in the game. And the last 2 times I bet it too. The last time was plus 1,200 in the playoff game. He caught the last touchdown of the game. Last touchdown, DK Metcalf. He scored the last touchdown when we beat them in the playoffs. Just generally speaking, again, I love the weapon group. I think Lockett with DK and I think JSN is going to be unbelievable in the NFL. I think that we're going to see how many teams try to replicate what the 49ers threw at Geno Smith, because we've seen him before, right? We have like a general idea, a consensus idea of like what he is and what we've seen before. Give him all the credit in the world last year. He was lights out. And playing from the pocket, he was probably one of like the top 5 quarterbacks in football. His playing from the pocket last year, his mobility in the pocket was – we've never seen that from him, where it's as far as like just stepping up and just – finding different angles to just deliver the ball. He was outstanding last year. If coming back to earth, I don't think Brock Purdy ever got on the spaceship.
I like it.
You know what I'm saying? Like Gino on the spaceship right now. Brock ain't never get on the spaceship. He just on the ride, man. And I hate because people are like, he made plays, but it's like that. It's like the scene in Gone in 60 Seconds when the 2 FBI agents are chasing Nicolas Cage, and the guy's like, "Oh my God, this guy can drive," and the black guy's like, and he corrects himself. He's like, "It's probably mostly the car. It's not really him. It's the car he's in. You know what I mean? He's not really the one whipping it. It's the car. The car's doing most of the work." That's Brock Purdy, man. The car is really nice, and now you get a Tesla and drive itself.
He's driving the Tesla. He's
just
hands off the steering wheel.
Sitting in the driver's seat, bro, and Ayuk and Debo and all them, they in the back seat, they in the SUV, just like, don't crash, please. We'll be all right. Look at the way the players talked after the game. That's exactly how it felt. Like, bro, like he crashed the car and we was in the driveway. Like, that's how it felt. That's how it felt after we lost. Like, bro, how did you crash the car getting out the driveway?
Right, and your reference is Brock Purdy getting hit on the elbow. Now he's hurt. That's him crashing the car. And not saying it was his fault, but it happened. And then now all of a sudden it's like, now they're like, damn, well, what do we do now?
Yeah. Or it's like, I guess with the Tesla now, it's the battery went dead. You know what I mean? Like, you can't put gas. You can't run out of gas, and the shit just died, bro. And there's no charging station anywhere near. We're fucked right now. We're just
all right, yeah. We don't want to, and that's exactly what happened. That's a great analogy. I might have to steal that. The 49ers were basically a Tesla with Brock Purdy driving it on self-drive, and before they knew it, the damn thing ran out of batteries. There was no charging station in the next 30 miles, and they got stuck on their way to the Super Bowl.
That's exactly what it was. The fucking Tesla died.
Damn.
It's unbelievable, man. I'm still trying to figure it out. And listen, and
not only did it die, it died, and then it like self-locked the doors so nobody could get out, and then it burned up. And that's Josh Johnson getting hurt. Was really, I mean, he wasn't really contributing to much anyways.
When Josh Johnson hit his head, no bullshit. I'm sitting there with my girl, and I'm just like, yo, the quarterback just got hurt, the backup. She's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I know, Purdy. I said, no, something is not right with him. Like, he just hit his head because they're showing the replay. And I'm just like, yep, season's over. Yep, it's done. It's done. See you in mid-June.
Was that the easiest / hardest game to watch? Because you knew it was over. Like, once Purdy went down, I'm like, but you're still watching it, hoping, because you still see there's like this little glimpse of hope that, you know, the Philadelphia Eagles, it wasn't like at the time, like, oh man, there's just an onslaught of points. So it's almost like, man, it still got some kind of hope, but you know it's over.
I've been with the same woman for 10 years. Whole family Eagle fans. I'm watching it with her and her sister, and they're loving every second of it. And I'm just sitting there like, just disgusted, just disgusted, and they're like, every single thing is going right for them. And I immediately said I would sponsor the Super Bowl party so I could watch them lose. And I ain't gonna lie, man, 2 weeks after that game, I forgot we even lost because the Eagles lost the Super Bowl. I swear, because that's all it was. I sat there and I was just getting smoked. I was by everybody. I was getting texts from like my brother, and he was like, everyone in my family, they're Eagle fans. Everyone likes the Eagles. I'm the contrary.
Why do you like the Niners?
I grew up on the East Coast, and at the time, it was the two teams that were really, really good in the early 90s were the Giants and the 49ers. And one was defensive, and I like points. I didn't like. How can y'all watch these Giants every week? They winning games like 13-10. Like,
that was with Phil Simms, right?
And Lawrence Taylor, right? So it's like, man, I'm not. This shit is boring. And then, you know, Joe Montana and Steve Young, man, they putting up 40 like every week. I'm like, man, I'm rocking with them. Y'all can have this gridiron bullshit. I'm cool. Like, I'm okay. I want to see points. And like that's how I got enamored with the 49ers, because they scored. Like they got up and down the field. It was like that was like the original basketball on grass, where the offense was so far ahead that the NFL took some time for the NFL to catch up. The only time we ever seen anything like that other than the Niners were the Rams.
Yep.
The greatest show on turf. But yeah, it was just like, wow, like they just scored. And so that's how I became a 49er fan. And yeah, I've always stuck with them. I mean, Tim Rattay days, Jeff Garcia, you name it. I've been through hell. I can't quit now.
Right.
I know who Jim Druckenmiller is. If you don't know who that is, don't talk to me. If you don't know who he is, don't speak to me. If you don't know about the guys that we had to go through and deal with that were just so ass, you'd forget about them. I remember all of them.
I feel like at this point, Druckenmiller he's definitely a punchline, but it's almost like a myth, because like, do we remember him playing? But we just know he was a terrible first round pick. He was just this big, strong arm guy, and it didn't work out. Maybe they were trying to have him pass the torch to Steve Young, or Steve Young passed the torch to him at the time, but ended up being a little Canadian or Canadian football player in Jeff Garcia.
Like I said, I'm toughing it out. I've been my girl 10 years. You feel what I'm saying? I'm big on commitment, you know. So I believe in my team, and I'm gonna just keep rolling with them. And also, this is another thing. People are going to ask me to go through, because this is going to happen. They're going to ask you to go through the schedule game by game. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I got us going undefeated. Why? Because I can't prognosticate or watch a game on paper and say we're going to lose it. That's how good we are. That's how talented we are. It's like, and bro, what do you win, like 11 straight, 12 straight at one point last year? Like,
right, yeah.
What did you expect me to say? We're going to win. Like, you know, that's that. Like, so before the season, they were like, how do you see the team? I was like, we're going to win at least 12 or 13 games. Why? Because the talent's there. But don't ask me how good I think we're going to be. On paper, I think we should beat everybody. I think if you look at the team on paper, we should beat everybody. We should go 17-0. That's not going to happen. But I mean, look, if you look at the paper, we damn sure look like we were Like we should beat everyone.
49ers are likely be the favorites in 95% of the games.
And why wouldn't they, right? They covered in 10 straight games last year as favorites. Do you know how hard that is to do? You know how difficult it is to cover 10 times when you're a favorite? You know how many times the Kansas City Chiefs covered last year as favorites? 4. And they won the title. We covered 10 times as favorites, straight. That's insane from a betting standpoint. You could have bet your money every week for 10 weeks straight that whatever number Vegas gave you, the 49ers were good money with a third-string quarterback. That's insane.
That's insane.
So why wouldn't you bet on them? They come through more than any team as a favorite. Now, obviously, a couple other teams covered more as dogs, like Atlanta. Like Atlanta did a really good job for us a covering standpoint. But with us, again, man, the talent, we have so much talent on both sides of the ball. It would take something crazy to really have me thinking, man, we're not that good or we have issues. You know what I mean? That's all.
All right, so we're gonna get out of here now. So, but before we get out of here, man, you've been an awesome guest. People in the chat, they love you. So we're definitely gonna have to have you on during the season. I'll put your display name up there so people know one of the places that they can find you on Twitter, but tell them everywhere they can find you and what you do. For the people that maybe missed the first few minutes where, you talked about all these different things that you're doing and, kind of how you make your money and do all those fun things. And you just talked about the 49ers covering 10 straight weeks. Well, you know why they covered 10 straight weeks. So tell everybody where they can find you and what the hell you do.
Listen, Sosa Picks, Sosa Locksmith, the name that he just showed prior. Check me on both. I run Win the Day TV. That's my YouTube channel. I have started that, but I haven't done lives yet. I'm trying to go live, like starting in the football season, like first week of the season. I'm going to really start doing the live thing. Just really focused right now on like building information and getting information to the people, whether it be through YouTube Shorts or just informational videos about gambling, and then other stuff. For example, I do daily picks and plays. I got a VIP, but again, if you go to this Twitter, link in the bio, check it out. All the free stuff I do, all the paid stuff as well. Again, I greatly appreciate you, man. Appreciate you having me on. And this is the first time, but I'm sure we'll get it going a little bit more. And obviously I love talking the Niners. Just love talking sports in general. And you can find me at Sosa Picks on every platform. So appreciate you as always. Thank you for having me.
Before we get out of here, are you going to be at the 49ers Steelers game?
Yeah, I'm going to be at the 49ers Steelers game. I'm going to be at the 49ers Eagles game. I'm going to be at the 49ers Ravens game. Those are the three that my girl has already made certain that she wants to go to. So I'll probably get to a couple more. I go to anywhere from 3 to 5 annually. And the playoff game, I was obviously I was at the game in Philly. That was freaking heartbreaking. Not the regular season game. I was at the regular season game. Remember when they had like a 97-yard pass and they didn't score a touchdown?
I was there too.
Yeah, I was at that joint. That was the longest play in the history of football in a drive that ended up with no points. He didn't score any points in that drive. That was one of the craziest plays I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, we just here. Like I said, we out here trying to get to it, man. Whether it's through gambling, whether it's through DFS, fantasy football, we do it all. Just check us out.
All right, and we're for sure going to have to link up. I know my guy, John Chapman, he does the 49ers Gold Rush stuff, so he's going to have a whole party and everything Saturday evening. I'm for sure going to be in there locked in. My co-host, Brian Peacock, one of the hosts of Locked On 49ers with myself, again, we come at you 5 days a week. He's going to be there in Pittsburgh. So every time I go to the away games, which I go to a few away games, I like to go to the away games. I don't care to go to home games. I like to go to places I haven't really been, or just to kind of be on the road in that environment, see a new stadium. So I'm excited. I haven't been to Pittsburgh. I haven't been to the Steelers Stadium. I'm going to the Cleveland game. I haven't been to watch a Cleveland game. So I'll be
last Pittsburgh game I went to was the playoff game when Antonio Brown scored 2 touchdowns against the Miami Dolphins. They beat the shit out of them. I was at that game. That was the last game in Pittsburgh. It was amazing.
Man, Antonio Brown, what happened to that guy, man? It was amazing.
It's one of my favorite players of all time. I give him the benefit of the doubt. Those were fake videos.
All of them.
There's a personal vendetta against him. I don't care what anyone says.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Sosa Picks. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming on this show, man. I appreciate you, and I'm going to send you backstage.
Appreciate you.
All right. You have a good one. Let's go. Shout out to my guy, Sosa Picks, man. He made this a fun, enjoyable podcast, man. Y'all as well did your thing in the chat. A lot of knowledge in the chat as usual. I always say, man, I got some of the most knowledgeable listeners on this platform, man. And y'all were great, from Terra Dome to everyone else that contributed to such a great show. Again, you guys got to follow my guy at Sosa Picks on social media and everywhere. You can find him, YouTube, all that good stuff. He interacts, he does spaces, he does all those things, not just talk about 49. So I felt like he'd be a good person to have on here. And he was amazing. Thank you all. And thank you for putting up with this bare-faced Crocky. By Monday, I should have some facial hair back. Don't mess up lining your own mustache up, man. Messed up, had to shave the whole facial hair off. Now I look like a firefighter, look real stupid. It's cool. We can put up with it for a little bit. But I'll see y'all next time. Make sure y'all hit the like button and subscribe to this video. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.